Alright everybody, 2 more questions. Let's see if we can do this in a reasonable amount of time. Let's look at this number 22. If Center 3 recycles glass, then which one of the following kinds of materials must, emphasis on that word, let's circle it, must Center 2 recycle? Now, just kind of a quick reminder, when we have the word must, what that indicates is that if we do not put one of these options, in this case in Center 2, that we would break the rules, right? So let's see what we can figure out here. Let's start with our scenario. And remember, we have an if scenario, so we kind of do a new sketch and throw this in and see what happens. Let's look at this. Center 3 recycles glass, so that means I have to put G in Center 3. And let's just kind of like now see what inferences we can make based on our rules. Well, we know that we cannot put P here, right, in Center 2, because whatever goes in Center 2 has to go in Center 1, and we know that there's only one P allowed, right? So that means the only options for P have to be either in 1 or 3. But we also know that if we have P, we can't have G at the same time. So since we put G in 3, it only leaves us one space for P. We have to put it in recycling center number 1. Okay, so now let's just think about what our options are for number 2, because that's what we're interested in, right? What has to be in number 2? I'm going to sketch a little box. Let's think about this. Well, we know we can't put P in there. And what are our remaining options? N, G, T, and W. Let me write this all down. N, T, G, and W. And we know that we have to put at least 2. We have to select 2 of these out of the possible 4, potentially 3. But we can actually narrow this down a little bit further. I know that I cannot put G in there, right? Because if I put G in 2, according to rule, the bottom rule here, rule number 4, rule number 2 here, right? Whatever goes in 2 has to go in 1. So if I have a G in 2, I have to put it here as well, but that would then violate the bottom rule. So I am not allowed to put G in there. So that means I just have 3 things left. N, T, and W. I have to pick at least 2. Now let's think about this. Now, which one does it have to be? And we can kind of like right off the bat, we could eliminate some stuff, right? We know that we don't necessarily, since that's in our list here, we can eliminate glass. We don't have to put that in for sure. And then let's see, N, T, and W, we can also eliminate plastic. Right? We can't put that in there. So we're down to either answer choices B, D, or E. Again, if you're running out of time, you can kind of just stab something and move on. But let's just analyze this for a moment. We have to put 2. Let's try this out. Notice something, though. We've got this rule here. W means we have to put N. So if I've got W in there, I've got to put in an N, right? So let's play the scenarios out. If I put a W, I have to put an N in there, right? That would have to work. Let's suppose instead of starting with a W, let's say I put a T in there. Well, if I put a T, I still have to put something else in there. My only 2 options are W or N. Supposing I put a W. Well, according to this rule, we have to then therefore put an N, right? Or I could, instead of putting a W, just put the N in there. I think you kind of see where this is going, right? No matter what option I choose, I'm always going to have to put an N into my column 2. So that is our choice B. We have to put an N in there. There's no way, think about it sort of reversely, right? You could kind of look down the line and say, all right, well, if we don't have to put newsprint, then it would have to be plausible that we could put the other 2 pieces in there and not end up with an N. But that's impossible, right? Because if I put T and W, because I have to have 2, W means we have to put N in there, so there's no way of getting around it. We've got to put an N. All right. Hopefully that made sense. Let me pause this and clean up the screen a little bit, and then we'll move on to the next question. All right, resuming this one, and a heads up, 23 is a doozy. This one's not entirely intuitive. And this is something that, strategically speaking, I would suggest that you would skip on the LSAT. This is going to take you a fair amount of time to do. But in this video, let's just walk through how we would tackle this. And here's how you would know that this is going to be a complicated or time-consuming question. Look at this. We have a couple of things. First off, it's saying they give us some sort of rule. They say Center 1 is the only one that recycles wood. Okay, so that means, well, we got to put wood here, and we know that that means since it's the only one that recycles wood, we're not allowed to put wood here or there, right? But then look at this. Which one of the following could be? So right there, we're looking for something that's possible, which means there's a lot of options for that, right? A complete and accurate list of the kinds of material that we didn't even specify which one of the recycling centers recycles. So we got a lot of vagaries here, right? We got, what is possible out of any unspecified recycling center. You're looking at this. My suggestion for you would be flag it, move on, come back to it when you actually have time, if you have time. But in this video, we'll just try to handle it. So let's look at this. All right. So let's see first off, what could we infer? If we put wood here, and we know that, wood can't go anywhere else, what I would suggest that you would do is start with the most restrictive of your groups, right? And we'll think about, I think our most restrictive is 2, because 2 maps, immediately to, whatever goes in 2 has to also go in 1. Oh, sorry, actually, stream of consciousness here. We can make one deduction before jumping into that. We know that if wood appears in 1, we have to also place the newsprint, right? Because if W, then we have to have that. So there's that right there. Now, let's think about this. This is a little bit weird, so just try to slow down a little bit. Think about this. We have to have at least 2 things in 2, right? That's the barest minimum. And maximum of 3. But we've already filled out 2 spaces in 1, which means, and we know that we can't have W in 2, which means that whatever goes in this slot here, we have to match these 2 slots, right? Because remember, look at this rule right here. Whatever goes in 2 has to go in 1. We have to have a minimum of 2 things in each group. But we're not allowed to put W into 2. So that means we're going to have to put an N in here. And we're going to also have to put something in here, and that's also going to have to match up with 1. Just pause the video for a moment if that confused you, and just think about it. Okay. So let's just, continue on. Well, in that case, we know I cannot, what else can we do here? The most other restrictive element, the one that appears with a lot of rules, is the P, right? We know there's only 1 P allowed, and P, therefore no G. So I cannot put P in 2. But just think about that, right? If I put P over here, I have to also put it over here. But that breaks this rule right here, right? So there's only one possible place where I could put P. I've got to put it here. Which means if I put P into 3, I cannot put G into column 3, right? Because that's this rule right here. If we put a P in there, no G allowed. Well, that means, okay, well, I've got to put G somewhere. I'm going to have to put it in either 1 or 2. And just think about what that means. Supposing I put it in column 1. Well, I'm also going to have to put it here because everything in 2 has to match up with number 1. So I'm going to have to do that. There's no other option for it. I've got N matching with this. I'm not allowed to put a W. I've got to put something in here. There's only 3 spaces. You can kind of see the logic there. So G has to go there. All right. Well, now let's just pause for a moment and just think about this. What logical deduction can we make about 3? Where can we put? I would say we're done with 1 and 2. I can't put anything further in 2, right? I couldn't put, let's say, I don't know, like I can't put T in there. If I put T in there, I have to also put it into number 1, but I don't have space for it. So these are maxed out. We are done with these. There's nothing more we can do. So that means, let's think about what we place. We put P, N, G, and W, right? P, N, G, and W. The last thing that's left that we have to put down somewhere is T. And the only space that it can go is in 3. We have to do this. I'm going to put it in purple to emphasize it, right? There's no getting around it. There must be a PT. It's possible that we could put something further in column 3, right? I mean, no, I could put, say, N in there. That's fine. But barest minimum, I've got to put those 2 pieces right there. They will not go in 1 and 2. So if we look at our answer choices, if you look at this, which of these could be one of the recycling centers that what they could do? It's got to be A, right? We've got to do that list. We have to have plastic and tin. Okay. I know this went a little long, yet again. You should be used to it by now. But hopefully that made sense. Let me know if it didn't, and I will be posting up some more videos shortly.